Welcome to our next episode of
Fandom
Family
Chats.
This is a production of Family Fan Clubs on Facebook. You can find us all over Facebook. You can find us all over social media under Fandom Family Chats. Look us up, get dialed in, get plugged in, and get ready to listen to some crazy people talk crazy stuff. Hey guys, I'm Maureen.
I'm Jeanette.
I'm Shelby.
I'm Bethany.
And we are back with another This Is Us and the Resident podcast episode. We are talking about the episode that we've all been dreading of The Resident, which is all we have is now. Episode 19. This is the sad one. I mean, Nick was sad too. We were dreading that one. But we love Summer Selby. So this was a hard one. And we asked and they delivered. This episode felt like it had more action. And even if it didn't, at the very least, I felt more emotionally connected and involved to this episode than I have in a long time.
I was telling Shelby before we started here, because I've said I haven't really enjoyed the last couple episodes. And I think I'm really into the personal stories of all these people. It's the medical pieces that just don't feel right anymore. And so this episode I liked a little bit better just because we got a lot of personal time with our people. So yeah, I like that.
I have to say it did make me cry.
Yeah. Summer killed it.
She really did.
She absolutely killed it. And I can't wait to get her back on this podcast to be able to talk about what we saw, because we didn't know the storyline where it was going when we talked to her last time, and just to talk about her performance and the storyline, the heart-wrenching moments. I cannot wait to have her back on and talk about this. And I think that's going to be a little bit of healing for all of us too, to see her smiling face, her warm smile. It's a little therapeutic for all of us. But it's a tough episode, very tough episode. Very obviously very tough for AJ. Carol going into hospice care, and it's they thought it was going to be months. My mom's uncle actually just recently passed away, and he was in hospice care for, believe it or not, 6 months. And so seeing this episode, it definitely meant a little bit more, because all this was just very recently, and to kind of, you see what AJ was going through, but then to also see, the hospice nurse and how she was helping him through. And, just it meant a little deeper seeing that whole storyline. And maybe it wasn't just a character on TV, but it was definitely a heart-wrenching episode.
I like too that, because last week that was one of our complaints, was when he was talking about hospice care. I don't think it was last week. I think it was the week before, maybe, with AJ and Carol. And he was talking about hospice, and it sounded like an infomercial. It was important information, but it sounded like an infomercial. And this week, the hospice care felt more natural. The conversations he had with that nurse, it felt like it flowed better, first of all, but it was also information that was given with someone who has learned to have compassion while talking to the caregivers and learned to have compassion with the family members. And I appreciated that they altered that a little bit for this episode, because this was a much more emotionally tangible episode.
It was, absolutely. It wasn't just, science fiction or, like you said, an infomercial. And here is somebody who, she's the hospice nurse, went through loss herself, so she knows what they're feeling, and she's able to practically and sensitively walk them through what's going on. And AJ was wanting to, let's do this, let's do that, and how can we intervene and give her a longer life? And Conrad just had to step in and be like, wait a minute, we're at the point where we need to make her comfortable and savor the moments that are there. All we have is now.
And I like that Conrad brought it back, because that was the reason that they chose not to do the trial, was because the pain and the struggle and the discomfort would outweigh the benefits, even the hour or so she would get out of it, if anything at all. And so Conrad brought that back in a really calm and kind way, that any intervention that we do, AJ, is going to be harmful. It's going to be painful.
I like too that the hospice nurse kind of put AJ in his spot, because AJ is very much like the take charge, manly man type of dude. And I like that she was like, listen, you're going through something too. You need to take care of yourself too. Because he's all about his mother.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of worried, because AJ is one of my favorites. Like, he has been pretty consistently, and I'm really afraid that he's going to spiral a little bit here.
I think what we see coming up with him is going to help that, though.
Yeah, and when he was like the way that he looked at Gigi, I was like, it kind of clicked in my head, like, okay, he's definitely gonna go meet Padma because like you could tell.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that that helps him, like to distract him and stuff. But I hate to see him, you know, start to spiral because he really is like the manly man, take charge type of guy. And I think that seeing that side of him is gonna, I mean, that's honestly I don't cry during shows. And the only time that I've cried during shows is when that man cried.
Malcolm Jamal Warner also killed it this episode. My husband doesn't watch the show with me, but I had it on the other day and he was like, is that Malcolm Jamal? And he sat there and watched and he was like, wow. And my husband doesn't even watch the show. So he was impressed by it. And so I think he did a really good job because we've seen, as we've talked about in depth at length, when his anger comes out when he's going through something. But here we see just pain come out of him. He's got no reserve of anger left. It's just, getting emotional thinking about it. But you really felt like he was really saying goodbye to his mom.
It was so sad when Gigi runs up and hugs him and says, I'm so sorry about your mommy. And in that moment, I was like, wow, like I have that in common, you know, like she's feeling, like, in other words, that like they're part of the same club now, you know, it's like, it was sad to think that here's this sweet little girl. And yet now he's in the same position she's in, you know, and then she's trying to comfort him, you know, understanding what he's going through, yet she's just a girl and she's trying to comfort him. Like, you know what? I'm so sorry about your mommy. And I was like, oh my goodness.
I love the Conrad saying, Italian's her favorite. And she insisted it was yours too.
Well, I also liked when he was like, I'll let you borrow Gigi for like a week. And like, that was such a parent thing to say. Like, I say that all the time. I offer my kids up. Like, see, might want them? Like, you can have them for a few days.
Gigi is like one of my absolute favorites, other than Irving and Nolan, obviously.
Yeah.
Because Irving's my guy. But Gigi is like it's not really comic relief, but it's like the cuteness that you kind of need in the darkness.
Yeah.
I babysit Gigi for a week. I'd hang out with her for a week.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I did like though the when AJ he kept saying, you know, she's not getting enough calories, she's not getting enough this, she's not getting enough this. And the nurse said, or her body is giving up. She doesn't need the excess anymore. And then and I thought it was really important that she said she has stopped fighting, and that's a win. And I think that it's so ingrained in us, and especially I have to assume in a doctor, to like, that can't be a win. The only win is healing, is wholeness, is getting better and fully healed. Yeah. But to be at that point, to not fight anymore when you're that in pain, I mean, it was everywhere. Like, cancer was everywhere. So to keep fighting would just make it more aggressive and make it more painful and make everything ramp up. But you knew that the moment the hospice nurse said, when she starts planning a trip, she's going to go, you knew that, okay, so in this episode, we're going to see her plan a trip.
Immediately knew that scene was coming.
Yeah.
My great grandma, she had dementia. So both of these episodes have kind of hit like the heartstrings a little bit.
Yeah.
And when she was like passing away, she ended up living like 2 weeks after the doctor said that like she'd be pretty much gone. But the one thing that she kept saying was car. Like, that's the only word that she kept saying. And like, I never really understood it, but it kind of clicked now.
And it's good, because that's what we've been longing for, was a return to a connection to this show.
Right.
And I really think we got it this episode, a real connection to the show.
And you know, when you said it was coming, she was going to plan the trip, I mean, obviously AJ kind of had that same mentality too, because he saw his expression. And so she says, what we need to do, and you just saw the look on his face, you know, and he realized what was happening around him. But you know, and I love how the hospice nurse said, hey, just whatever you got to say it. She can hear you, you know.
And I did like that the nurse said what she was saying to him is and again, it was the relation from infomercial to actually relational. And in this relational episode, it was her saying, instead of just listing off facts about hospice, she's compassionately and kindly telling him, don't give her your grief. Let her hear the things that are good, that are peaceful. Let her go not worried about you. Let her go not thinking about the pain she's causing you. And it was nice that they interjected that personality into it. And since Bethany is being kind and not pointing it out, I'm going to point it out. I was wrong last week. It was not AJ's house. It was Carol's house. We have notes for every one of these podcasts that we do, for those of you who don't know how we work behind the scenes. But I wrote capital letters, Maureen was wrong. So, and I was the one who wrote it. I just want everyone to know that I can be humble when I feel like it. So it was AJ's house that Carol was in, not Carol's house. Although it does look like the one that she shared with her husband, doesn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was the same house.
Unless maybe are we positive that maybe her and her husband didn't move in with him
Maybe they did move in with
at
him.
some point?
Maybe she moved in with him when her husband died.
Maybe, or I mean, it could have been even because she was sick even before her husband died, right? Am I accurate? I'm trying to remember.
I think so, yeah, because he was there with her when she had the cancer diagnosis the first time.
So it could have been possible that they both moved in just to have an extra set of hands.
But what I was going off is the first time we meet, it was before Summer Selby played Carol.
Oh yeah, that's
the first
true.
time we meet who used to play Carol and his dad, when they walked in that house and there was like that wall of windows in that kitchen. That's what's in my head, that's their house. And AJ went to visit them at that house. So that's what I thought they were at.
It feels so long ago, I don't remember.
Well, I mean, I guess it could be a plot hole, but the other thing is too, the only reason that I thought that it was AJ's house is because the nurse said something along the lines of like, that it's pretty here or something like that. And Carol's like, yeah, I like it here. And I don't know, like for some reason that triggered in my head, like she wouldn't say that about her own house. It would be like a place that she's not usually at.
Yeah.
But I'm also, sometimes I misunderstand things. So I know
that makes sense, because if it's your house, you probably would just say thank you,
right?
Rather than, so I mean, that makes sense actually.
I wonder if maybe it's just like the same house or set that they filmed in and just kind of changed it around a little bit, so it doesn't look identical. But
so you're saying is I could still be right.
No one's saying
I like that you are all working so hard to try and find a way for me to be right about this.
No one said
Here it was. I want the record to show I came in being humble, and you guys are working on a way for me to be right.
Oh, but hey, you see,
I was not
being humble.
It's just Bethany. It's just Bethany, really,
and you
a little bit.
I was thinking out loud, but you see the rewards of being humble, everybody. No, I'm kidding.
Shelby was reveling in it.
But yeah, I guess it is AJ's house after all. And, seeing him standing there in the middle of his living room was just so sad, the way, it was very symbolic, piece by piece, it was a process that they were showing, and he's standing there, just silent. And it was just hard to see that. But at the same time, it's like they were doing this parallel with another patient. That's the second time they've done a parallel recently. They did that, a couple of episodes ago. So here you go. You're hoping to see, Carol do well, and you're getting the opposite. And then here's this other patient that you think is not going to make it, and he's doing the opposite. And you see this parallel of, loss, but then also life that's coming through, and life seems to work that way. It's like there's a loss, but then there's also life that comes.
I will say I watch a lot of medical shows, and I have never seen a storyline on a rabies patient.
Yeah. I know we joke about how like they repeat like all these different, because I'm like, oh, that's this and this, because I've seen it on this show. Never seen a rabies patient either. So this was new.
And you are our two medical show experts. So if you guys haven't seen it, then there's a very real chance it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I've seen almost every medical show there is. So
yeah. And the other thing is too, I always thought that rabies was like, and maybe this is stereotypical, but I always thought the rabies was like foaming at the mouth, like
he does do that
crazy.
Eventually.
He did though. He was foaming when they. It was when they.
It's a progressional disease. It moves fast, and as it moves, and each level it hits at the next level, there's a new symptom that comes up that's more rapid and more.
Because even in dogs, like at first they're just probably a little aggressive. The foaming doesn't come till like later. So.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
I only caught it because I was waiting for the foaming of the mouth too. Like I was thinking that same thing. So I was like watching.
That's
for it.
Literally all I know about rabies is that it's fast and you foam at the mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know in animals it makes you act like completely like day and night. The resident or intern does the intake on the not nudist guy.
I just like that he pointed out. He's like, we're not nudists or anything. Okay.
Okay.
Did we know you were naked before this?
He was a little weird, and I was
You were
trying
very
to
weird.
figure out if the weirdness was coming from the rabies, because I know it like alters like your state of mind, or if he was actually a full-blown weirdo.
Well, I mean, he slept outside naked without a tent or anything. So I'm gonna say that he was a full-blown weirdo.
And the
Like,
girl he was with was of the same mind. So they were,
Yeah.
yeah.
he
Yeah.
even said that, first of all, is that a resident or an intern? I couldn't remember.
She's an intern.
Okay.
right?
Why are all their interns stupid?
Well, this I was thinking this too. Like, I mean, I guess they're not stupid, but at the same time, like, I feel like I thought to myself, I think you all need to spend a little more time teaching these kids because they keep screwing up.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I know they're trying to like create storylines with them, but I would not feel comfortable with any of those.
No.
Anywhere near me. you know?
Every episode, there's a huge screw up. Like, where did you find these people?
Yeah.
Maybe because before it was a public hospital, they had more prestige in their interns that they got. Now it's a public hospital. It's like, you just get everybody.
And now we've lost Trevor, who was like the most promising one of the group.
He was the only one who had any confidence or legibility or reliability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like internships though in real life, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but like with me being in the medical field, you're pretty much at the end of your schooling at that point. So like you should know more than what these people know. I mean, I understand it's just a TV show, but like usually the people that like not everyone gets internships. Usually the people that get internships are the top of the class people. And it's the people that actually know what you're doing, and you're supposed to pretty much know what you're doing for the most part. Because like at this point, like you already learned your book stuff and now you're learning hands-on.
Mhm. And the way when his BP started dropping, when all that stuff started going wrong, like she had no idea what to do, how to act, and Nurse Hundley had to save her.
Yeah. I love how Josh was like, when he was watching the episode, like Nurse Henley just like comes up, he goes, man, she spotted that fever from across the room. Like she just talks with so much authority. Like he was like saying, man, she just had that tone of I know what I'm doing and I've done this enough in her voice. Like it just like, thank God for Nurse Hundley, because who knows where it would have gone if she hadn't been there.
Yeah.
The whole time, you know?
I feel like that's super accurate too, though, because like nurses really, I mean, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like most of the time, they're the ones there to save the day more than the doctors, and we're being honest. So
Yeah, because they're the ones who are present with the patients all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. I do like how Conrad and Devin were kind of playing detective a little bit, like with his symptoms. And, you know, it seems like the one thing that I do like about this show is when they don't know things, they don't act like a know-it-all. Like they actually like work through the problem and try to figure it out and like do more research if they have to. It seems like in Grey's Anatomy, and like I know this is kind of getting off topic a little bit, but it seems like in Grey's Anatomy, like at the beginning, because I'm rewatching it, at the beginning, like they would have like the like whiteboards and stuff, and like they would write down like all the different possibilities and like cross off one by one, like if something doesn't work. But now it's like if someone comes in with some off the wall something or other, like they just talk to each other and they're like, oh yeah, it's this, and like there's no conversation about it, there's no like detective work. And I don't really think, I mean, no one knows everything, you know, it's not, except for maybe Maureen.
we love that.
The only thing in 2 years that she didn't know was that it was AJ's house.
Yep. That's right. Let the record show.
Yeah, there were some cruel summer mix-ups too, so I'm just gonna say, won't forget that.
If you can't name what they are, then they don't exist.
One of them was about Mallory. You thought that she was like bad news.
I stand by that.
Liar.
Can't prove it now because we got an all new cast.
That's disappointing. We're not even gonna talk about that right now. So
But I like too that in this, to that end, Shelby, that in this one, we've been complaining about how they just keep saying what they're doing and there's no movement. But in this episode, when they're with the rabies victim, like Conrad and Devin are talking over the patient as they're doing stuff with the patient. So this was like more of a return to why we loved the resident in the first place. This episode was. And I really like that. Because even when he's doing the spinal tap, they're still talking through things, but he's still trying to run tests. And Conrad is listening to what the girl is saying, who I don't know the names of either one of these patients, but that's not important because we even talked last week about, we don't care about the patient's names. We don't want to get back to them. But that they were active while doing the procedures, and they were that was necessary.
No, I was gonna say, I think it was really cool to see that again, them work together and just like be the detectives. It was cool to see that in action. We need more of that.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love Devin and Conrad working together.
Mhm.
I mean, I know Conrad kind of trained him and everything, so like Devin's kind of like or Conrad's kind of why Devin is the way that he is, but I love seeing them working together.
But I think we've missed that a lot lately too.
Yeah,
Especially
they've
with Devin
come a
doing
long
the
way.
trials. So we don't see Devin much at all, except when he's all on his own. And like we like our people together.
And they've come a long way too, in my opinion. I mean, look at how much Devin undermined Conrad because he thought that he was like somewhat of a rebel and stuff like that. And now it's kind of gotten to the point where they work together and they're pretty much a powerhouse when they do. After a lot of investigation and seeing what this guy was going through and stuff, they figured out that he had rabies. And then they started looking for bites, which how in the heck don't you know that a bat bit you?
Okay, that was my contention with this episode too, because I'm like, all right,
Heavy sleeper, I guess. I don't know.
I get like maybe you're sleeping on the ground and maybe you felt like you pitched, but you would know that something, I guess maybe you thought you were a little over on a stick, but I've had a bat attached to the back of my head. I haven't had
But a what?
a bat.
Attached to your head?
Yeah.
Oh.
We used to play hacky sack until like 4 a.m. on Main Street where we used to live. Hacky sack. I bet Jeanette and I are the only two who that's relevant for.
No, I know what hacky sack
I
is.
know what it is. I do.
There were like awnings on Main Street and bats would hide up in there and we didn't know it. And I went in this like little corner to get it and I must have freaked it out. And there's like 10 of us on the street playing this game and it came at me and I went to dive down and it like latched on the back of my head and its claws were like in my skull and I have never been so terrified in my entire life. And its wings were like flapping against the side of my head. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
That's terrifying.
Maureen doesn't do bats anymore. Maureen, if there's a bat,
No.
I will leave. Whatever. My poor children, if they're with me when there's a bat, I'm sorry, babies.
Every
love you,
man
but
for
I'm gonna
yourself,
go. Like even with that, like get the claws in the skull, like you feel that and it's gonna wake you up. I can only imagine that. And why would a bat bite you too? Like if you're just laying there minding your business.
I don't
I
know.
would
It was odd.
I don't know. Maybe it was a rat or something. He probably wouldn't have gotten rabies. He was gone.
That's the other thing. Bats aren't the only thing that carry rabies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was small, so it had to have been something of that size. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'm thinking, I mean, it could be that he was already incoherent from the rabies and he forgot, and maybe his girlfriend didn't see it. Maybe she wasn't there in that moment that it happened, or maybe she's a
She wasn't
deep
there a whole lot of all those episodes.
Yeah, exactly. She could have, maybe she couldn't, yeah, exactly. Something she couldn't handle it. So she would run away when anything happened. Maybe she ran away. She saw the bat and it scared her. So
That's exactly what happened.
so she's not seeing it bite him and he's not remembering because he's incoherent. I mean, I don't know,
But I don't know much about bats, but do they feast off of dead animals? Like would they think that like he was dead and like they were just trying to get the blood?
Don't
Well,
they eat like
they eat animals. Some do. Some eat insects. Some eat animals. It depends on what
Yeah.
breed of bat it was. But they generally don't attack unprovoked. Is the thing.
they're not like predatory and like
Mhm.
that they're gonna
So if you're just laying completely still, it's not like a bat's gonna creep up and like have a snack
No.
on your leg.
It could be that maybe it just landed, it was investigating and he rolled over and scared the bat.
Yeah, it could be that
I mean,
too.
maybe.
Because
See, look, Bethany's got all the logical answers here.
because bats have excellent sight, and it could have been if it had rabies, it was sick. So there's a chance that its eyesight was not right. So
What are we thinking? Yeah, it's not going to act like a normal animal because
That's
like
true.
even if you see like I was gonna call it a trash panda, I couldn't think it was called a raccoon. If you see a raccoon during the day, I promise I don't have rabies.
trash panda.
That's what my brother calls them, trash panda.
Yeah.
If you see one during the day,
Mhm.
it means it's probably got rabies because they're out, they're nocturnal. And so
Mhm.
if it's sick, it's not thinking straight, it's incoherent, just like the patient. It's gonna go out and do its thing during the day and wander around and look for food because he's not well,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
so could it's the same thing here. This bat, if he had rabies, he obviously wasn't acting like a normal bat doing normal bat things. So that actually explains it.
Yeah, and they have
Wait, who
really
came
good
up with
hearing.
that?
Not you.
Yes, it was me.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't until they were discussing that it might have been a bat bite that this intern had said, oh yeah, they were naked in the woods all night.
Like, I think even every audience member would have put that together, like, well, this is obviously a big part of diagnosing what he's sick with. I mean, how does she not see that? You know,
that's somewhere, you dummy intern. He's naked in the woods, he's getting sick. Don't you think that there's a connection there?
I will say, when they were talking about having to relieve the pressure in his head, I'm like, oh, they're gonna have to call Billy and make burr holes. And I felt really, really like smart.
Definitely. Yeah.
They're gonna call Billy and do what?
Make burr holes.
A burr hole? Is that what it's called?
That's what they call it when they charge their skin.
I felt very smart. I felt very smart.
We're practically surgeons.
Does anyone else notice that almost on every episode of The Resident now Billy's drilling into somebody's head?
Yep.
What she does.
I like
That is
it.
what she does. She's good at it.
I enjoy it. Even after the burr holes, he keeps getting worse. And Devin suggests this trying hypothermic, I guess, therapy. I don't know. That he learned from the trials he's working on. So hypothermic, that means that they dropped his
Body temp.
temperature, right?
Yeah. I like that he was able to still be in the ER, helping Conrad, doing what he loves to do, while still using the stuff that he's learning in the trials that he left to go do. I like that they added both of those in there.
When they brought up the whole trial thing, I was kind of worried that we'd see less of Devin, but I'm glad that that's not the case.
Yeah.
The resident girl who doesn't know what she's doing picks up some symptoms that most people wouldn't check on, which, I mean, A+ for her. I mean, I guess she kind of redeemed herself.
She did, yeah. Even Nurse Funley was impressed with her.
Yeah.
And what I like about Hanli's character too, and this is her character, but when she chastises you when you need to be chastised, but she encourages you when you deserve the encouragement.
Agreed.
And that's what she did with this intern. On this episode of The Resident, when we had the rabies, because we were talking about how not every episode has to have a fantastical element. And what I liked about the rabies storyline is it's rare, but it's not fantastical. It is something that, I mean, none of us have had rabies, but we all, even Shelby said, foaming in the mouth, like we all had something to relate back to it, where it wasn't this fantastical, never heard of, crazy, obscene thing. So even though rabies are rare, what I liked about it is that it's almost always fatal. We got the hero in Devin and Conrad through this. And it's even to the point where like they're joking that they should have a Conrad Hawkins rabies treatment center. Yeah, that would be obnoxious, but I like that return to that. And so Devin had a really good day at the end of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think they said the Hawkins Pravesh. Yeah.
Or the Pravesh Hawkins, right?
Yeah.
Oh, was it Conrad Hawkins? That's where my head goes.
Like that's just how it would be if I were doing it, you know. She's like, I fixed it.
I love Devin, but I'm loyal to Logan Huntsberger, so. But not all things end up going great for Devin. I mean, this is one shining moment he had in this episode, which was a big shining moment. Yeah. But it wasn't like the whole episode was like, oh, Devin, you're amazing, you're awesome, because he got in a fight.
He did.
And what did you all think about that? Because, okay, so I mean, I guess we'll just lead up to it here. Padma, you know, they're getting ready. They're going to, I guess, take the eggs, and they're trying to decide if they're going to freeze them because they haven't heard from AJ about whether he's going to actually like donate.
Padma lies about that too. She gives everyone the impression that he's fully on board and he's ready to go.
Look, I love her though. I just loved her. Like, no, the universe will just provide this for me. Like, I think she's funny. She's another. I mean, I enjoy her character a lot. I enjoy her. I think a little bit more than Leela. Leela kind of annoys me here lately, and just how stiff she is. But Padma's just, I don't know. She's funny. I like it. Then of course, when Leela's talking to Devin about like, are we going to freeze them? He makes a really weird request, which I he wants to donate his sperm, which I was like, okay, that's not going to work. And I agree with Leela not wanting that, because essentially that would be their child they're given to Padma.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. I think that conversation went as well as it can be expected to go.
But it bothered me that she was very dismissive of what is the reason he is offering this. It's because he wants a family. And he's not seeing that he's ever going to get that with you. And I really wish she could have noticed that that's where this was going, and like had that discussion with him.
Mhm.
I
Because
don't
even
know,
what
I
she did
just-
at the end when she said, were you really seriously going to do that? And he said, I just want to help. And then she just basically made an excuse and walked away, still cutting off that conversation.
Yeah.
I think she knew where it was going, and I don't think she was ready.
But I don't think she was, I don't think she really knew why he was doing what he was doing. I think she was just offended that he would dare to offer that.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
he's
totally
hers.
in agreement that would have never worked, Devin.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, it wouldn't have, it would have been weird. But I also see he's trying to grasp, he's trying to hold on to just some piece of what's happening here.
I think too that would leave it, like when they were talking about it, she even said, no, that would be our baby. And you could tell that she hated the idea of their baby, something that would be theirs, being raised or brought up by anybody else. So I think that the reason they interjected this here, because you know that it's never going to happen. And we talked about that before. There's no way that Devin's going to be the spur knower. I think this is the way that they're going to direct it to either separate or bring them to a conclusion about family. I think that's the only reason that they had this conversation, because this made her realize, no, yours and my baby is going to be yours and my baby. And I think that she kind of wanted a bit. I think that's where they're going to try to direct it through this, because it just seemed out of left field that he would offer that.
Mhm.
I get why he was doing it though.
I don't know. I'm going to need Leela to do some work here.
Yes.
Because as it stands right now, I kind of want them to break up. I just
Mhm.
feel like, I don't know. I think Devin deserves, and not.
She's almost
not I
being
don't
cruel
like
about it, though.
Leela. I like her, but she's not treating him. She's not noticing his feelings. She's not treating him like he deserves to be treated. And I think
Yep. I
if they
agree with
can't
that.
get on board with this, he needs to move on. Which stinks, because I mean, Devin has like the worst love life. Like, I really just, I don't know. It makes me sad.
That's why I think they're going to use this to make her do the work and realize what she actually wants.
Yeah, that'd be
Even
good.
Padma was like, you have no idea what you have. I know he's not perfect, but you have no idea what you have in Devin. Don't let that go. And I honestly thought that the conversation was going to go a little bit differently, because you saw the look on her face, and I'm thinking, what if this whole experience is helping her like have a better perspective on everything, at least not be closed off, at least be open to, okay, let's consider this. Let's actually meet halfway. Let's just not dominate. It's just my way, and I honestly thought that she was going to go to Devin and be like, hey, so maybe this is something, like she's not saying yes, let's have kids, but she's thinking like, hey, maybe I'm not going to be so close-minded after all. Let's actually thinking about it versus just like, no, So it went very different than what I thought it was going to be.
The one thing that bothered me too was, like you guys already said, her being dismissive of it, but like Devin, I know it was weird and I get where she's coming from and I understand why she's upset, but Devin's trying to help your twin sister, and there was no like, I get where you're coming from, babe, and I appreciate you trying to help, but this isn't the place where you need to step in, type of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, it was just like Leela was in a way being, I don't want to say selfish, because I get where she's coming from and I feel like I would be that way too.
I
But
think she's being a little selfish though.
yeah, like you don't want Devin to have what he wants, but you don't want to give him what he wants either. I love Leela, but it made me see like a different side of her that I didn't really care for that much. And I'm very surprised too. But like, I get that she wants to be double board certified. Like, I get the aspect of wanting to be a surgeon, and maybe like the family life isn't like for you at this point or whatever. But like growing up in the culture that they grew up in, them having a family is kind of important.
It's huge deal.
Realistically. And the fact that Devin wants that, I don't think is completely out of left field. And I don't think that's really too much for him to ask. And I really think like when you're with a partner, you can be on different sides of the coin with different things. But like children, I think is something that you kind of really have to agree on to a sense.
And if she doesn't want it, she needs to let him go instead of saying, well, maybe someday, is that good enough? I'll give you that.
Yeah.
No, because maybe someday you're going to run out of time. And it's not fair for you to hold him to the hope that you'll want one if you're not going to want one. So you need to be honest with yourself. And maybe that's what it comes down to. She's not being honest with herself, but she needs to be honest with herself. She needs to be honest with them. And if she doesn't want kids, she needs to let them go. But I like that Padma pointed out that she said, I don't like when you get like this. And he was like, what? Like when you are, how does she word it? Overly logical, Leela.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect way to explain what's going on with her and Devin, is that she's not looking at it. And you're in a relationship. You have to look at it relationally. You have to look at it emotionally. She's not.
Yeah.
She looks at everything from a very logical black and white point of view.
Mhm.
So that's why the ending of that storyline, well, the ending of this episode, it made it better because I think it testified to her a little bit.
Mhm.
Mhm. I mean, even we saw in the doctor's office, I don't remember if that was this episode or maybe it was the one before this that was like this before the weird off story mafia thing, where they're in like the doctor's office talking about all this stuff and Padma's asking the doctor questions and Leela's kind of interjecting and like bringing like her knowledge to it, which is fine because I mean she knows what she's talking about, but in this point you're the patient.
Yeah.
So you kind of need to step back and be the patient and let the specialist talk to your sister.
If they finally get Leela to agree, because not just to wait for the universe to step in. So she's decided she's going to freeze her eggs. And then, of course, the universe kind of does step in, and AJ swoops in at the last minute. And I wasn't excited about this when she first asked you. I was like, oh gosh, here we go. I kind of am now.
Because he wants to be involved now.
I think it's nice. As long as Padma wants that, because we didn't answer him yet when all that, so I don't know.
I don't think she was expecting it because he knew, like, the instant she asked AJ, like, we all knew it's AJ. He's not going to be like, sure, and this person, child's in the same proximity of him, and he's just going to ignore him. Like, of course not. It's AJ, but he's going to be involved somehow. I think it totally took Padma by surprise, and now she's thinking, whether she's opposed or not, it's a huge thing for her to have to process and accommodate and think about it, because she's thinking she's going to be a single mom this whole time, and now suddenly her donor is going to try to be a father to her baby.
But the universe provided.
The other thing is too, Padma's kind of a free spirit and she kind of does things her own way, and AJ, at least up until this point, seems like he's more by the book, and like I said in the beginning, the manly man that wants to take charge of things and stuff like that. And I'll be anxious to see if Padma already thinks that she's going to be a single mom at this point, and AJ is the way that AJ is he going to be too overbearing? Like,
I don't think so.
I think it'll be an interesting watch for sure of how they navigate this.
Yeah, because they're complete different mindsets. I mean, Padma lives in a van,
which maybe this is good. Like, you live in a van and you're going to have a baby. It would be a bad idea to have a surgeon father that's helping out.
That's true, because she was going to buy a house. So, if he's going to be a father, he's going to provide for, child. Yeah, exactly. He can help her pay for the house. He can help her, however, financially, and, but it's going to be one of those situations where now there are two people having to accommodate parenting one child, and so I'm wondering, I mean, it's an obvious pathway, but I'm wondering, is this going to bring them together? Because, now they're just friends, but
I don't know. I thought that too, though. I thought it too, because we already know they've had a past, at least an intimate relationship. I mean, it wasn't like, they weren't in love or anything like that, but who knows? I think it could be an interesting story of like opposites attract if they, I mean, who knows? Padma might be great for AJ.
I think she could be.
So we'll see how it goes. I'm here for it, I think.
AJ even says, now that I'm alone in this world, I want to be a father. Yeah. So he even says that this is why I don't want to be alone in this world anymore. I want to have someone that I can care for and that I can take care of and be a part of their life.
I mean, because they, like, I know they weren't in a relationship, but it wasn't just a one-night stand either, right? It was a couple times.
Yeah.
Every time she was in town.
And I'm wondering too, though, if they're going to go the opposite and be like, well, you're just jumping the gun. You're emotionally raw right now, and being a father is a huge decision. And I'm a little nervous that maybe they're going to pull it away and then do the opposite.
I think Leela will try to do that more than Padma will.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Hey, you're not thinking with common sense right now. You're running on emotion.
Because I think that Leela wants to parent this child with Padma because she doesn't think Padma will do a good job.
Yeah. I hope I won't like it if Leela. I think you're right. I think she will try to like insert it herself too much, but I'd rather just see, like, I mean, Padma's an adult. I mean, she may do things way different than you do, but she's an adult. I mean, I think she can handle this. Like, I mean, just because she's a free spirit now doesn't mean she's not going to change things when she becomes a parent. We all make changes when we become parents, so I don't think you can judge that yet.
I mean, kids change you, but like the other thing that I was wondering too, she asked Leela to donate her eggs and stuff. And I'm half wondering, like, based off of how Leela is acting, if she didn't actually want to say yes, but she just did because that's her sister and she felt like she had to.
I don't think she felt like she had to. I think she did. I don't think she would have done it for anybody else. But I think that part of her, what she said to Devin was true, that I don't know if I'm ever going to want kids, and this is the only way I'll ever do it.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. That's what she's thinking, that it creates an opportunity, it just seemed like a win-win-win in that moment,
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I don't think she would have thought that if it were anybody else in the world,
Yeah.
So I also loved Bell. He's found a way to solve his problem this episode. I really enjoyed the storyline with him.
I did too, and I'm glad that they carried it out and they followed it through. We only get snippets of him every episode doing this stuff, but I like that we keep getting it. And so we find the examiner from the medical board insists that nothing unethical happened. And I hate that she says the results of this procedure for what happened, that's the normal standard. And Belle says paralysis is normal. You don't see a problem with that. And so obviously this examiner is in the pocket and she accuses Belle of being emotionally attached and she's unbiased. If you are totally okay with paralyzing patients because it's a possibility that could happen, I think that you might be a little biased towards the medical field. Just, I mean, that's ridiculous. And obviously doesn't sit well with Belle because he's been fighting for this girl. And so he talks it over with Kit, and I didn't catch the name of the previous surgeon that they were talking about. That is not important. And they were just talking about how, hey, remember this guy, it happened before and he got caught. And then when she says, but how? And he's like, it was leaked to the press. I love the way he just turns around without another word or just pushes through that door and Kit stares after. He's got some moxie, that guy. I love that.
I loved it.
Yeah, I like that they're redeeming him because, I mean, when we started off, he was a crap doctor.
Yeah.
And guy, I mean, in general. And even like with the whole conversation with the board or whoever they were, there's always worst case scenario, yes. But that's not, just because it's worst case scenario doesn't mean that it should be pushed under the rug if that actually happens. So I like that Belle actually fought for it and didn't just roll over. And, he did make the risky move and went to the press, which I was like, whoa. I mean, especially with him being the CEO before and stuff, I was kind of surprised that he went that far, to be honest. But I was glad that he did.
Well, he even went to the same journalist that broke that story before. And I'm not surprised he went to the journalist. What surprised me is he said, I have case files. And he handed over the case files to him because that's a big no-no. So that one surprised me a little bit. And then when he said, I'm going to have to record you, and he said, I'm expecting you to. So, I mean, I think that for him, the difference too is that worst case scenario does not mean the norm. And they were acting as if, no, worst case scenario is the norm. Well, it shouldn't be. If you're good at your job, worst case scenario should be worst case scenario.
Right.
Not the automatic result of a procedure. So when I love that conversation he had when the articles go live, and that guy, he's the head of the medical board. And again, I don't know his name, but I don't think he's important enough to know his name. So, but he calls it Belle and he's like, enjoy your victory. And Belle even got a last shot and said, well, it should be our victory, shouldn't it? Because this is what we're fighting for. And then he just hung up the phone. Like Belle in this episode was like, man, you are like on fire. You are phenomenal in this episode. He had so many comebacks and he had so much swagger and so much certainty about himself and what he was doing. He was so, and Belle is usually fun to watch, but this episode, he was super fun to watch because he just was so excited about what he was doing.
Yeah. And then, I mean, all of this, I was like, okay, cool. And then he goes on a morning show and like just calls out, I mean, like Billy said too, not just calls out the medical board, calls out the governor. I mean, he is like, I don't know.
Yeah. And I liked how too, they had like everyone at the hospital, like basically in all of him.
Yeah.
But the other thing is too, I'm wondering if this is like making headway with his health problems and stuff. Maybe he's gonna like stop being a surgeon and be like a malpractice something or other.
Well, he would be able to be a malpractice lawyer.
Like
the best place for him to be would be on the board that would investigate. But I think he'll probably work with I can see him working with like some nonprofits or some people who have like Marshall. And working to build up a different board that is going to, on their own, investigate these claims, or people can come to them and they investigate it.
Absolutely.
Like a liaison kind of thing.
Yeah.
it's a great way for him to still go out and save lives and help patients with actually being in the OR and having a scalpel in his hands. It's like he can still do the same thing, but just on a different level, because he's going to hit a point where he can't hold a scalpel anymore. As we've already seen, he's needed the chair, so you're getting to the point where he's going to save lives, but it's going to look a little different than it has in the past.
Yeah. And did he resign or did he get removed? Because it said former when he was on that morning show.
Kind of implied that he got removed, because that's what he said. I'm going to kick you off this board. And he's like, oh, I'm sure you are. And then they say former. So it kind of made it seem like, hey, you know what? They're threatening him. They made good on their threat, but it's not going to stop him. He still has the upper hand. He still has the last laugh. It's kind of how I thought it. But I mean, I could be wrong, but
and now that he's not on the board, he has so many more opportunities to do more of these interviews and more of these talk shows and spread the word more without being hindered by, a guillotine hanging over his head from the board.
Absolutely.
So I can't wait to see how that unfolds. And next week actually seems like we're gonna get less of Belle, but we're gonna get a lot more drama, and not in a way that I'm really excited about. More drama with the mafia. We see a woman who came in to the ER and had a bag full of pills. It seems like she's one of the pill makers in this pill pushing factory, whatever they're doing. It was like they kept doing little cuts of what's happening, and the same dude who Cade was like, I'm starting to have to stare you down. He was staring down her again, and she was outside the hospital gazing over at him as he gazed back at her for like 15 minutes.
Did she gaze at him like lovingly or gaze at him like try me?
Just the same way she looked at him in the hospital. Kind of a mix of shock and stupidity and arrogance and annoyance. But Conrad's trying to convince this woman to give up whatever information she has, and she at one point says, I'll end up in the bottom of a river with cement around my feet. And that's when they cut away to Cade and this dude staring at each other. The only redeeming thing that I could possibly see about Cade at this point, the only redeeming thing, and I'm hoping that even this is against her somehow, is that her dad coming out, we saw the announcement today, is going to be Andrew McCarthy.
My favorite Brat Packer. I love it.
And I just want to be very clear that it should be a testament to the actress who plays Cade that I hate that character so much, because it means you're doing your job well, because I don't think we're supposed to like you right now.
I mean, I like her okay.
You like everybody. That doesn't count.
Well, not everybody.
Maureen doesn't dislike anybody either.
Maureen never dislikes anyone.
Yeah, right.
Her. I cannot stand her. I don't even know what. I think it's just because she was mean to my people, and she's not good enough.
There's what it is. She's not good enough for Conrad.
All I'm saying is they better not get them together. She better not be Gigi's stepmother.
I agree with that.
I don't think they can do it. Even if they had plans for that, I don't think they can.
And if Cade and Conrad end up together, Gigi's in danger. You don't get to put Gigi in danger. Sorry.
It seems try to wrap up the mafia story. I don't know, because it seems like it's such a long term storyline, but it makes me feel like they're going to try to wrap it up in this episode.
Yeah, I hope so.
And
with it.
how that's going to look, because if you're worried about putting Gigi in danger, if it's wrapped up with a bow, then suddenly she's not in danger. But if that's always going to be something lingering, I'm curious to see what they're going to do.
I don't think Cade will stay out of this sort of business. So I don't think that they can fully wrap it up, but she was the one saying in the preview, we need to call the FBI. She said it like 4 times in the preview. So I hope that they move on in the story and they take Cade out of there, but then Conrad's still going to be, Conrad's not going to let the story die. So they're using his name. All right. So that's everything on The Resident. And next week we'll see the mafia storyline.
Yay.
No.
I will try to be level-headed.
Maybe they'll wrap it up and it'll be good. Like maybe it'll be a nice ending. Let's think positive.
Because we know Kate's not going anywhere because Andrew McCarthy is coming out. So
don't disrespect him like that, Andrew McCarthy.
So we're gonna move into This Is Us, and we're gonna say goodbye to Bethany because she does not watch This Is Us. So we're gonna say goodbye and we're gonna dig in.
Woo! Have fun.
Bye.
Bye.
So we are on episode 613, season 6, episode 13, Day of the Wedding, and there's only is there 5 more left?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow, weird.
It's weird.
But we're on Kate Phillips' wedding.
We know that I was like dreading this episode, like leading up to it. I really loved this episode.
I did too.
And I really loved Philip, which I don't even really like to say But
He's
I did.
funny.
I liked him, and he was really good with Kate. I liked everything about them. When he comes in to see her, and he's kind of like, they're Beth and Madison are trying to stop him because you're not supposed to see the bride or
Yeah.
whatever. But he kind of just blew that off. He's there to like. I think I loved his reaction to how she looked, telling her she was beautiful, and he's being encouraging because she's stressed about Rebecca, and she's trying to pretend like she's not stressed. And I also like that he saw that too. He was able to see through, like, okay, I know you're saying you're Zen, Kate, but like, that's not like what's going on here.
And he refused to let it go until she shared with him what it was, which is a
Yeah.
partnership. That's a real partnership.
Yeah. And I mean, he's getting along with the whole family. I enjoy seeing that. I mean, it's nice. I mean, you can tell that, I know we've had some time pass in between here, but you can tell they've all fully accepted him, and that it was good. I liked it a lot, to be honest with you.
I liked that scene when they were all sitting out there, the four of them, Big Three and Philip, and they were talking about Rebecca, and they were all like, well, I guess we shouldn't have her do it. And Philip was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm just going to speak here. And then he's talking to everybody, but he looks right at Kate, and he grabs Kate's hand, and he talks specifically to Kate, recognizing that one, she's the person that is going to take care of mom, how it goes, but also it's her wedding day.
Yeah.
And nobody else is going to make that decision for her when her mom was agreeable to it.
Yeah. And then we found out too, like even later, he's like, he keeps, being very positive about like, oh, she's going to find her note and everything's going to be fine. And then he finds out, and he tells Randall later, he's not as confident in that, but he's, for Kate's sake, he's being confident in this to try to help her through it, so he's really amazing, if I'm being honest.
And even when he was talking to her, when she was nervous that he wasn't going to do it, he was picking up on that at the reception. He said, don't worry, if she doesn't, the band is going to jump right in there. My heart will go on, and no one will remember that your mom didn't go up there.
Yeah. I mean, he seems pretty perfect for her.
And through the whole reception, he was doing nothing but making Kate smile and laugh. That's it. That was like his entire goal, was to make this literally the happiest day for her.
Yes.
And how can you not be endeared to someone who cares that much about the person he's marrying?
No, absolutely. I mean,
I'm not gonna lie, I was disgusted by how much I enjoyed him.
Oh,
I was a little
bit. You were going
bit.
a different way with that. I was like, what? How are you disgusted
No,
by that?
I was. So like I went in and like I was like, I'm not gonna like this dude because I like Toby and I can't go against Toby, and I'm team Toby, and there's no way that I'm gonna like this guy. But like he gets Kate on a level that no one else gets Kate.
It's true.
He makes things all about Kate because we all know Kate's a little self-centered. He makes Kate, he makes things all about Kate, but in a good way, not like gassing her up or, making her cocky or anything like that. Yeah. He's just there for her. And I mean, that's what she needs. I mean, she's kind of an emotional mess. Yeah. And if we're being honest, and she's very much about herself. And, like on that day when everything was happening with Rebecca, like I feel like Philip was saying what she needed to hear, but you could tell that it was genuine. It wasn't just him saying it because that's what she needed to hear.
Yeah. And I think we've gotten her back to a level where like she wasn't this angry person that we had seen all season long, basically. She was happy and she was laughing
Likeable.
and she was very likable. And even like her jokes, like during their vows of, she mentioned some of the Super Bowl and she was like, I'll tell you what a Super Bowl is later. I mean, it was nice. Like they fit.
And even what did Philip give the minister his vows? Is that what was going on at first?
Yes, I think so. So it was just a joke. That part cracks me up too.
And I think for me, the thing with Toby was that Toby was still in it, fighting so hard for the both of them. And she just completely disrespected and disregarded that. And that was what my fight was about.
Yeah.
But once Toby was like, I'm done. And he realized, okay, I'm not in this anymore. Then I actually preferred them apart. Because Toby was so in it and he was being such a good father, husband, and supporter, but she wouldn't have it. And that was what my big beef was how can you be so terrible to this person you're supposed to love?
Yeah.
But through them separating, she began to be loving towards Toby. So I was more okay with them separating after that.
Yeah.
And she said in the last episode we saw, when she was talking to Philip, she said something along the lines of, we were so scared. I was married to a man who we both loved each other, but we were so scared to push him the other way that we never talked about anything. And you see the opposite here. where he
Yeah.
pushes her to talk about everything.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
the one
healthy.
thing the one thing I did like too is, like a lot of times TV shows and stuff make things like all lovey and like, kind of like unrealistically perfect.
Yeah.
I liked that, and this might sound stupid, but I liked that Toby wasn't at the wedding.
Mm-hmm. He shouldn't have
Like,
been either. Yeah.
yeah, like realistically speaking, he definitely shouldn't have been. And I like that they didn't force that.
Mhm.
Like, you can tell that they're on good terms because he called her or whatever, and you could see that the kids were there because they walked down the aisle, but I like that Toby wasn't there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
But I mean, I don't know. We've seen, Kate, I mean, her concern for Rebecca this whole episode. It's justified though, because I mean, like, we are starting to see Rebecca, we're starting to see the cracks in her starting to deteriorate. And it's actually like, it's out there. And it was
Mhm.
so sad, really, to watch.
Yeah, it was really sad. And we see her in the flashbacks longing for something outside of her routine. Everything the same every day. Even the guy at the deli is like, ham lady. And
my
the
God.
lady,
Pound
first of all, how
ham.
embarrassing.
Like, that would yeah, I felt that in my soul so hard. I mean, like, I feel like every mom in the world has felt like our day is just
Yes.
like Groundhog's Day. It's just a repeat of the day
Mhm.
before, and it's
And we
frustrating.
feel like we've lost ourselves. We're no longer, and that's something I say to my husband a lot when I need to go, because I schedule things. My husband's like, can you stop doing things every night of the week? You're always gone. But on those 1 to 2 days I schedule something, I need to be a human being. I
Mhm.
need a moment.
Yeah.
Because our kids are not going to stay with us forever. I'm not going to be living with my kids and raising my kids forever. I need to not lose myself and find myself later on and have to refigure everything out. And that's where Rebecca's at.
Yeah.
And I like the conversation she had, because she does get the Princess Di haircut, which Mandy Moore is beautiful. I did not like it on her.
I thought I actually did. I was like, this is not, like, everybody was talking like it was awful. I mean, granted, I like her otherwise, but it was very 80s. I feel like my mom had the
That's
exact
true. In
same
the
cut.
80s, it was a nice haircut, but I don't like it for
I
now.
think that's I thought she looked fine. I was like, the kids had me cracking up.
I didn't
though.
like the hat. The hat on the haircut was not very.
No.
I like Kevin coming in with the ladle.
Kids are just so unapologetically like honest about
Jack
their
had the same
feelings.
reaction. He laughed
And
hysterically.
he laughed. I was like, "Oh, Jack, don't laugh." But that it reminded me of, it's not exactly the same, but there was like a few years ago, like one night I'd fallen asleep with Shelby in her bed. She rolled over and one of her tiny little like toddler fingernails scratched my cornea. It was terrible. I had to go to the eye doctor and I had to wear an eye patch. And I remember David brought the kids home, like, and Shelby was, maybe she was 3. He brought the kids home and I was sitting there with my eye patch on. As soon as she walks through the door, she looks at me and goes, "Arg." And David and everybody started laughing. I wanted to cry for a minute because I'm like, I don't want to wear this eye patch. And here I've got my 3-year-old basically telling me I look like a pirate. So, I mean, it made me think of that. But that was just, I looked like a pirate to her. So that's what she was, like, let's talk about this. But
So in our group, and I don't know if you want to keep this in or not, but in our group, a lot of people were like complaining about how the kids were being, like, they were talking about how disrespectful they were and stuff like that. That's what I'm saying. Okay, I don't have kids of my own, but I've babysat like a lot of different kids and they are so honest. Like, I walked into Brianna's house one time and it was after my birthday and like I hadn't been there for a while and Kinsley straight up told me I looked fat that day. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Like, it made me upset, obviously, but like,
well, the thing is though, it was funny. And that's why I laughed. It was funny when he called, but Rebecca was in,
and it caught him off guard.
Yeah, but she was in an emotional moment. And so then I was actually proud. Okay, Jack recognized, like, well, now I don't think he should have scolded the children because like we were just laughing. But at the same time, like, he recognized, like, oh, wait, no, I can't laugh at this. Because then he laughed again, though, when Kate made the He-Man comment.
But Rebecca wasn't in the room for that.
But it was just,
I didn't understand that one. I didn't understand that one, but I did understand the Peter Pan one.
Do you not know who He-Man is?
No.
You and I are the only ones who get that reference right now. It was accurate. I thought it was accurate. And even Jack, when she said that, Jack laughed. He's like, no, after like a second of laughing.
Not funny.
I like that he had the conversation with Rebecca, and they talked about how she needs to get out of a routine because she needs to be herself, but he also liked the routine because he's outside of routine meant unsafety. And
Yes.
when he was growing up, so even
Well,
though he was willing to
yeah.
do something for his wife, he shaved off his beard. Well, I can't remember the comments that Kevin and Randall said, but Kate was like, I kind of like it.
Of course she does. I know, such a daddy's girl over there, right? That reminds me of my household too. Like,
Did you guys see the face? I don't remember when it was, but like Jack was sitting at the table and little Kate was right next to him. And then it was like Randall and Kevin. And little Kate made a face at him. And I thought it was the cutest thing ever.
I didn't
I
notice
missed
that.
it, I guess, but
You guys have to, it was during like this like part or whatever, but
yeah.
I don't remember what the conversation was at that point or anything like that, but I just remember the face that she looked, and it was like the cutest thing ever, like
Aw.
pure like awe of Milo, basically.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't have that?
I was gonna say we all look at him like that sometimes.
Yeah, but it was just, I don't know, it was just
I'll
adorable.
have to go back and watch that.
I like that he like kind of made up with it with the date night, because
Mhm.
it seems like I don't know how short on money they were, but it doesn't seem like they had date nights that often. I mean, you figure with 3
I
kids,
think
they
that was
probably
less to do with
couldn't.
money and more to do with triplets.
Yeah.
That
And you
makes
definitely
sense.
didn't go out, what you said, on a Wednesday. I mean, I
Yeah.
felt that too. Like, I feel like I would have been like that. Oh my God, it's a
Mhm.
school night. We can't have a date night on a school night. Like, I don't know. But I love
But
this. That's where we got our stash too. Because we've always wondered, like, here, like he had a stool ear, and then he
Mhm.
comes out with his Tom
Yeah.
Selleck stash.
And then when Rebecca told him that he looked like a porn star, I died
Or pizza
laughing.
delivery guy.
Yeah,
I thought it was
That
funny when
could
she said
be-
pizza delivery guy.
that could be a porn star too, technically.
I think that's where you're going with it.
But the other thing too about
Well, also Jack said to that, I can be both.
Mhm.
the other thing too about the conversation about having a routine, alcoholics usually, like, don't they say in AA to have a routine too? Like, you pretty much stick to whatever you're doing.
His was probably more, well, I mean, yes, I think they do. His is more his traumatic childhood because
Mhm.
I mean, like, I feel that way too. Like, I like stability and all of that. Whereas, like, David's usually the one that complains more about like the monotony of like parenthood. Whereas I like it. I mean, I know sometimes it's still kind of like a lot, but, and I think that has to do with that too. Like, if you didn't
Mhm.
have like a stable life growing up so much, that stability makes you feel safer.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, is it because they were drawing a parallel there between those flashbacks and Rebecca now? Is the parallel that they're drawing that she now needs routine? Is that where they're trying to go with that?
Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she said at one point too that she doesn't want to lose herself,
Mhm.
and she's kind of losing herself in
Yeah.
a way,
Yeah.
which I didn't cry at all this episode,
Mm-mm.
but I got emotional because of everything that happened with my great grandmother. It was like
Yeah.
bringing back memories and stuff, but I didn't cry. But
You all like not cry during the song. I
I
was
got emotional,
good.
but I didn't cry.
The song got me. I was good till that moment, and then I was like,
Well,
the mean one, I don't cry.
through this, we see her forgetting that she needs to have her hair done, and she alternately thinks that Kevin is either Kevin or Jack. Good job, Shelby, you called that one. But I don't think that's at the very end, the flash forward that we get. I don't think that she believes he's Jack because it's Nikki who's sitting in the room. So I'm unsure of that still. But we see that throughout this, and Kevin even says at one point that it's become the norm that she calls him Jack, that she thinks he's Jack. And so what I really liked about this episode too is watching Rebecca with Nikki and Edie and Miguel. It was just, when they were playing cards together, it was so heartwarming and I was so happy. And you show that next to the moment of panic everyone had when Randall finished his speech. And it's like, okay, Mom, it's your turn. And she doesn't move. And
mhm.
everybody went into a panic, and she's just going from that happy person who's lucid, who's laughing, who's joy-filled, and then the next moment she's not even responding to anybody audibly, she's staring off at nothing. And so it's just the nature of this disease makes those two things so sporadic but so rapid, and that panic that's there. But when she finally goes up there, everyone in the reception is crying, everybody's bawling, and
Everyone.
that song was so beautiful. And the theme song.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that walk, Dan
one
Holman put out a
thing-
tweet that said that was reached #1 on the charts.
It was well deserved.
Yeah, I love
The
it.
one thing that I did like too, is when I was confused at first when Jack walked in the room because I was like, wait, did I miss something? And so I like actually rewinded it and then I rewatched it. But the one thing that really stood out to me too, y'all know I love Nikki. He's one of my favorites. I like that he said to Kevin, "Are you okay, kid?" And like that kind of like, it's kind of like, okay, he's like the stable in Kevin's life. Like Rebecca's going off the rails. He doesn't have Jack. You can tell that Nikki's kind of stepped into that place to make sure that he's good. And you can tell, like, even the change in Nikki too, like from when we first seen him and he didn't care about anybody at all. And now to see the pride in his face with the kids and with Kevin, and it's a huge change and I love it. I mean, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Nikki's the big reason why Kevin, throughout all this, he's had to be stronger than he's used to being. He's had to be the one who's relied on for relief through this whole thing. And I think it's a large part due to Nikki.
I'm still not fully convinced that Kevin's married. I loved Madison and Beth. Like, I want to see more of them.
Me too. Their friendship was something like kind of unexpected. I don't think we had seen them really spend any time together, but
and them playing detective. Like, I know a lot of people in our group thought they were being nosy and like they were stepping too far or whatever, but that's what females do.
Well,
females are like
family too. Like, this is a close-knit family. I'm like, do you all not have close-knit families? Because like, I would definitely do this to my brother. I would. If I thought some girl was like, yeah, I would be super nosy. I'd get my mom in on it. We would be like doing the exact same thing they're doing. Like, it'd be all right.
Yeah, I mean, my family's not close-knit at all, but I enjoyed seeing that. And I feel like girls like drama and girls like mystery and girls like all that. So like the fact that they moved in there and then them literally like psychoanalyzing like every single like interaction that he had with every single female at the wedding. Jeanette, I was dying laughing. Like,
well, I thought it was a fun, for me, it felt like a fun play on like what I feel like what we have all done for all 6 seasons, trying to figure out where Kevin ends up with who. Like, we're constantly trying to analyze the clips and like, did you see this? Did you see that? It's got to be her. Like, so I thought it was hilarious and I loved it.
And even like, then when they heard Cassidy say about the rap in his room, he's like, no way, it can't be Cassidy, which is exactly what we said last podcast when we were talking about it. Because we said that Cassidy's a like contender, and one of us, I forget who it was like, no, they're just business partners. There's no way. Like, it's literally what females do.
Yeah. And I definitely think for me, I thought that there was no way Sophie was a contender anymore, but clearly they spent time together the night before, so she's a contender now too. And I don't know. It was I thought it was really fun watching them all just try to figure out what was going on. And because I was doing it at the same time during the episode. I'm like, me and Amanda were actually like texting each other like during, and I was like, oh well, I guess it's not Sophie. And then I'm like, wait, okay, Sophie's back in the game. Like, we were like doing the same thing, so it was fun.
I'm not gonna lie, I really hope that they close the door on Sophie. I really hope it's not her, especially because she's married and stuff. Like, I feel like, so there's another thing posted in the group about Randall's talk with Deja about like the first love always coming back or whatever, like if it's meant to be. And someone was like, well, maybe, it's alluding to Kevin and Sophie. But the fact that she's married and stuff, I really hope they don't go there.
I mean, I don't know. Until last night's episode, I said the same thing. But then it's like you get Alexandra back on my screen and they have insane chemistry together that I'm like, maybe. I mean, like.
And that talk with Rebecca too, when she thought Kevin was Jack and they're out in the garden. And then she was talking about how they'll figure it out. They got married young, but they'll figure it out. I think that feels like an Easter egg to me.
Yeah. I mean, there still felt like there was something special between him and Cassidy. I'm still, I think, rooting for that connection. But I don't know the wedding singer. So let's see next episode how I feel about her. I don't know. I can't really.
I don't want a new person.
I don't
They have to
either.
make me
And
really
the
love
whole
her in a quick
Yeah.
period of time, I think.
and the whole Cassidy thing too, like I thought that them at the cabin with Cassidy's son before the whole PTSD episode, and like not not before the PTSD episode, during the PTSD episode, but before Cassidy had the PTSD thing going on. Like the whole family dynamic there at the dinner table and how
Natural.
Cassidy was saying like how natural it was. And
Yeah.
like that made me kind of hope for her, because I was like, she can use some stability. The kids all got along. Nikki loves her, and Nikki doesn't really like anybody, if we're being honest. And it is like a whole family dynamic. She's part of the family at this point. I mean, obviously, because she's 5 years down the road at the wedding.
Yeah. Well, I know people were like, oh, she said she didn't want that, but like a lot of time passes and
they're business partners by this point, I believe.
it could grow into
because he's
something.
writing on the big three homes, so they're business partners by this point.
Yeah. And I mean, yes, she's got PTSD, but she's taking care of it. And I think within a certain amount of time, if you got a handle on it, he's got a handle on his addiction. I don't see there any reason why those two couldn't be a wonderful couple.
Yeah, and they have a lot of stuff in common to an extent too. Like they can kind of lean on each other with the whole alcoholism thing. They've got Nikki in common. Cassidy obviously cares about Nikki too. They have the kids from the split up homes.
Yeah.
It's just, which I mean, I guess 5 years down the road, Cassidy's son's probably pretty much grown at this point.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, I don't know. I'm really.
And a relationship built from like a friendship like that could be something really great.
Yeah. And I mean, especially from Kevin, who kind of jumps into things head first.
Yeah.
It might be good for a slow burn for him.
Yep.
And I mean, Cassidy's not going to let him do his stupid stuff either. I mean, she kind of puts him in place, which I like about her, which is another thing that's another reason I'm kind of rooting for it, because Cassidy doesn't let him do the stupid stuff. She calls him out on it.
Yeah.
Which I feel like with someone as impulsive as Kevin is, he kind of needs that in a way.
Yeah. And I think that's where Beth and Madison landed, was on Cassidy because of their relationship, but also they overhear that conversation in the elevator where she left her shawl in there. And obviously the wedding singer, they said, was professional. So because she's married, can't be her. So it's got to be her.
Right.
But then after that conversation with Kevin as Jack and Rebecca, they run into Sophie. And I love that on the terrace when Beth and Madison were like, he's such a good guy. He so deserves this. They're so lucky. And then they had that moment with Sophie right there, like, he's trash. He's garbage. He's terrible.
Yeah.
Now they've landed on it's Sophie and Cassidy.
I honestly, my opinion is that he didn't sleep with any of those three. I think he had a moment with each of them. And it's just, I mean, because honestly, I don't think they're going to tell us who his wife is until the last episode, guys.
And what we see in here is we see him talking with the wedding singer and then walking away, talking with Sophie and then walking away. And yes, we see Cassidy go in his room, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Because of their friendship, she could have stayed in his room, but I don't think they did anything.
And I mean, honestly, I mean, the bra on his chair too, I mean, that could be circumstantial too, somehow.
If she just
I
got
don't know.
dressed in there, then it is what it is. I mean, like, they're good friends, so I feel like it could be just something really casual, like not.
Yeah, and I love Kevin, but if he did something with Cassidy the night before, knowing his personality, he's sitting next to her at the wedding, he's not going to turn back and stare at Sophie.
No,
if he did something with Cassidy.
Kevin is, I mean, he's loyal, even though he jumps quickly, but when he like is in it, he's in it hard and like devoted, at least for at least in the beginning stages. And so, I think
even if it's out of obligation, he's still very present in the beginning.
I mean, look how he is with Madison. I mean, we don't know how he is 5 years in the future, obviously, but he's still, joking around with Elijah at the pictures, and he's still like, they very much have that blended family dynamic that I would assume anyone would want that was in that situation. I mean, not that it's ideal, but I mean, it seems like they have it pretty much under wraps,
Yeah.
and there's not really any drama or anything. He's not in competition with Elijah anymore, and he's just kind of come to terms with it.
And what we see from his conversation with Rebecca is that he is struggling romantically and he feels it and he doesn't like it. And so that could be another reason why Cassidy is in the room, is because he's talking to her as his friend of, I don't like where I'm at. I just had this long talk with Sophie and I feel like I'm still in love with her. I don't know what to do. I think that could be a reasonable thing. They could stay up all night talking, and because he's confessing more than once in this episode that he doesn't like where he is romantically.
Right.
I will say, I did like the scene where he's sitting at the table when he's talking with Elijah, and he looks over at Madison and Beth, who are just staring daggers at him. He's like, what is this? You guys have been looking at me weird all day. What is this? No, nothing. You okay? Yeah, I'm good. You okay? Yeah, I'm good.
And like normal, guys are completely oblivious and girls are playing detective and, over analyzing things. And
well, I don't think he was oblivious, because he was like, okay. And then the wedding singer called him up and he went and talked to the wedding singer. And that's when they're like, dang, he's with all three of them. But just, I love Madison and Beth's dynamic in this episode.
I do too.
They were just so fun to watch.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. I really hope that we get a little bit more of that. Or if we don't, like, at least, I really hope it doesn't go by the wayside now that they showed it.
Yeah.
Because that was, to me, one of the best parts of the episode. Because, I mean, that's basically what we've been doing for 6 seasons.
Yeah. And once you're in the Pearson family, you're in the Pearson family. Even Toby, we see that in the flash forward. He's still in the Pearson family, even though he's not married to Kate. They asked him to come over. So I mean, Madison's not going anywhere because she is Pearson now.
So Randall is also trying to play detective this episode.
Yeah.
But in a different way.
Poor Randall this episode. It kind of surprised me that he was so shocked by like her progression. And granted, I mean, I know like we're leading into some sort of political career, so maybe he hasn't been as present, and maybe
they called him senator in this episode, so I think he's already won the race.
Yeah, they did. Okay, so I mean, I guess I get it, but I mean, he was definitely shocked. He was, checking out the pill bottles in their room, which I'm like, come on, Randall, like,
that's inappropriate.
I know, but I mean,
but that's always been Randall.
Yeah, that's who he is, and this is, but I mean, he noticed like the blood pressure medicine that Miguel had, which comes up later. He's worried like about Rebecca, like, and he's expressing that, and he's got everybody around him trying to reassure him that the reason they had this super long day and super weird schedule for this wedding is to make sure that Rebecca gets plenty of rest and that she's going to be okay and all of that. And then I felt bad because Miguel just wants to go on his little wine tasting. He just needs a minute. And Randall just can't stop talking about it. And I noticed that tremor the first time he took a drink. And I was like, why is his hand shaking? Like, this is making me worried. Yeah. But I mean, it's clear that Miguel is, really struggling with what's going on. It's a lot for him. And I feel really bad for him, and it makes me nervous because there's been theories out there that Miguel is going to pass away before that final, and I think it might be true just from sheer stress of the situation.
Well, he's the sole caregiver.
Yeah.
And it's so clearly here that he desperately needed a break. And if no one is willing to give him that, because even when he has a break, it's brought back to Rebecca. And if he can't get away from that,
right. And I mean, this is probably it's physically taxing on him, and then emotionally taxing as well, because we see she keeps talking about Jack. I mean, it's very possible that she is going to forget that they are in. I mean, she may not forget him, but she's going to possibly forget that they are in any sort of relationship. Yeah. And I mean, this man has devoted years to her. And I mean, I can't imagine like being the spouse of someone that's struggling with this. Cause I mean, it's gotta be just awful.
If they go realistically, now it's a TV show, so maybe not, but if they go realistically, chances are she's going to remember Miguel as their friend, not as her spouse. Because like, I know with my great grandma, she remembered things from the past more than the things from the present, which was weird because of the dementia. But like, The one thing that's kind of been hammered home is that when Randall's on something, he's on it, and like he literally fixates on it.
Mm-hmm.
And he showed genuine concern about Miguel, which I can say one thing that's gotten on my nerves throughout the whole entire series is how disrespectful they are to Miguel.
Mm-hmm.
And because he's been there their whole entire life,
Yeah.
romantically or not, to Rebecca, he's been there the whole entire time. And they're very disrespectful to him. I mean, granted, regardless of how you feel about the fact that he moved in on your dad's wife or whatever, he's done a lot for them. And I mean, we see that throughout the series. And this was the one time, and I think honestly, as far as I can remember, really the only time that they seemed genuinely concerned about him. And it was only Randall concerned.
Well, we don't see a lot of their life before, because even Kevin says this is the norm now. So you know that they're around each other a lot, Kevin and Kate, and but Randall is not there. Randall is on the East Coast where they're all on the West Coast. So I think that's a good point though, that he does do that, but we don't see how much respect they're giving Miguel through this, because we aren't given that yet. I think we'll get that in Miguel's episode though. I hope.
I just hope they don't kill him off in that episode.
Oh my God. But I mean, he is gonna know.
It's possible. So,
and that's when, I mean, Randall and him even fight about all this stuff, because I think Miguel wanted that moment where he wasn't consumed with this thing that is killing him. But he also, I don't think he's used to having people care for him either. And I think that was something he didn't know how to deal with right out of the gate either.
Yeah.
So when him and Randall fight, he screams, "It's all happening fast now." What I was surprised when Randall was like, "What is?" Like, what do you mean, what is? You seriously don't know what's moving fast now?
Like everything, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The one thing too, and maybe I missed it, but this was brought up in the group too. Where's Miguel's kids?
I don't think he really has much of a relationship with them. No. I don't think he has since they got divorced.
Mm-mm. That was even the understanding from the flashbacks right after they got divorced, that he didn't really have. I think he actually said that at one point he doesn't have much of a relationship with them.
Yeah, I feel like mom maybe badmouthed him or badmouthed him to the kids a lot, and it just yeah.
Okay, I must have missed that, because I know it was said in the group too. Like, it just seemed off the wall that, you know, as close as the family is, that his kids aren't really around too.
Yeah.
Well, they moved once they got divorced. I feel like they moved, right?
I don't even remember.
I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm making that up, but I just know like we just didn't. I feel like there was like one time we see them like as adults, and it was like, I feel like it was another one of those awkward dinners, but I might be making that up too. I don't know, but I just know he doesn't.
No, I feel like I remember that, an awkward dinner. I remember that. I feel like
with like older, after Rebecca and Miguel are married or something, like
Well, maybe we'll see more of that during the Miguel episode then too.
I think we have to.
It seems like they kind of like brushed by him a little bit. I mean, I know that we're getting a whole episode on him, but like, I don't know, like we've seen how they kind of reconnect and rekindle, and like how their friendship kind of progresses a little bit, which that could also be an Easter egg about Kevin and Cassidy too. Mm-hmm. You know, having each other's backs at the worst possible times, and they kind of it turns into a romance.
Because Kevin is a lot like Jack.
But the one thing we kind of crossed over, the banter at the pictures about the kids being the special agents or whatever, I thought it was weird that they weren't there, but at least they were mentioned. I mean, I guess, I don't know.
Maybe they were in the back somewhere and just not.
That's what I wonder.
That's weird. They would be in the pictures, you would think, because the twins were in the pictures, weren't they?
Yes. And I was trying to think if like what the ages of the girls would be. Maybe the adult actresses just weren't available like to film any more scenes, because I'm sure all the cabin scenes have probably already been filmed. Is my guess. I don't know that for sure. I'm just guessing.
But if it's only 5 years in the future, they could do their makeup up. I mean, Annie would be 16 maybe. Deja would probably be 18. Tess would be probably 17-ish. Yeah. I feel like they could do their makeup to make them look a little bit older. I mean,
Deja should be much older than 18. Deja would be in her 20s.
Oh, really?
She's 17 presently.
Oh, okay.
So she'd be 22.
Okay. Either way, though, I feel like they could still do their makeup up and make them look older.
Yeah.
It was just weird.
It's supposed to be only 5 more years till we get the cabin scene, which still messes with my head, but whatever.
Yeah. I was thinking about that today. I can't I can't
Doesn't
reconcile this
fit,
timeline.
guys.
I'm
I
not
can't.
going to be able to understand it until we see it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe it's
You're
our
wrong.
timeline that's off.
Haley and Jack weren't in the pictures either, though.
I noticed that too. The twins were there, but Haley and Jack were not. I noticed that, which is
And
super
if
odd.
Haley and Jack were in the episode, why would you have them in your wedding picture?
Yeah, they were coming down the aisle. Haley was the flower girl and Jack was the ring guy.
I saw that. But you're right, they weren't in the. Well, I thought I did see them in the pictures, but I guess I didn't.
I don't think I did, or at least not the one that's been circulating. I did have to watch the episode again to see if they're standing there then. But the picture that's been circulating, like on social media, they are not in.
Yeah.
But maybe the twins aren't in that one either. I'm trying to think.
The twins are in that one because they're so Elijah and Madison are over here with the twins like right directly in front of them, which I thought was kind of weird because you think that Kevin would be there, but then it made more sense when Rebecca thought
He's
that
with
Kevin was
Rebecca.
Jack.
Yeah.
And then Randall is over here and like Beth is like over here somewhere. And then Kevin and Rebecca are together, and then Miguel's kind of like off by himself. And then Kate and Philip are like kind of like dab in the middle. But the kids aren't there, which in my opinion is weird.
It is weird.
It was weird. No, I agree. I loved Randall's speech. I mean, it was directed at Miguel, or that's how I took it. That it
Oh, it
was,
absolutely was.
Yeah,
Because
that it was
he
just
threw some of the things Miguel said back at him.
just showing him that he was there to support him, and that I thought that was I liked it a lot. It was really good.
And the way Miguel got emotional about it too.
Yeah,
you could tell that he was very appreciative of what Randall was doing for him.
Yeah.
I think it's even more important that Randall does that for Miguel, because Miguel is walking Kate down the aisle.
I loved that too.
I thought that was sweet, but Miguel, he does feel like an outsider because especially now that Rebecca's thinking Kevin is Jack.
Yeah.
He knows that he's always compared to Jack, and it would be different if Rebecca and Jack got a divorce, but his kids and his wife were still desperately in love with him, for him, with him, when he died tragically. So it's not even like there was a divorce and a breaking. So he's always going to be compared to him, and even more so now. While I'm sure that everything he's doing with Rebecca is under a microscope. And so for Randall to throw him that bone was really, really, really smart. Was really kind and really, really generous of him. And right, someone needed to say that to Miguel.
Kevin's the one that walked Kate down the aisle at her and Toby's wedding, right?
I think they both did, didn't they? Both brothers?
I don't remember. Oh yeah, both brothers did, I think.
I think both brothers did.
I don't know why, but I couldn't think of that.
Yeah.
Randall isn't as had much of the ceremony or the reception because of what he's witnessing, his fight with Miguel. So we see outside of the speech, we just see him kind of being Randall. And I love that. He's like, what am I supposed to do with that? And Beth said, you dance. And just pulls him out.
Yeah.
Seriously,
and I'm like, and I like he's normal Randall still, like wanting the approval and everything. And like you can tell that his fight with Miguel kind of hit him hard, because like you can tell that he was trying to care, but then he kind of got shut down. Which
he loves Miguel.
I think he does. And I think he was overstepping his bounds a bit, but I don't think that he saw that he was. I think that he thought that he was being helpful when he really kind of was just rocking the boat a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he's asking Kevin, I like that too, that he's asking Kevin about, and Kevin tells him it's a long story, and he's like, is it a good one or bad one? And Kevin's like, I don't know yet. So that's
that
cool.
levity that Randall goes over there with, where he's dancing, he's going up to him. I like that too.
Yeah. But I mean, next week we're gonna hear a whole lot more about this story that Kevin's got to tell.
And next week is all Kevin, and it's not even just all Kevin. It is titled The Night Before the Wedding. So it's all Kevin and these three women. And you see, this is where you get a bigger glimpse. And with the wedding singer, you see him sitting down and she's like, I watch people. What are you hiding from? And that's the conversation we see with them. So we can fairly certainly eliminate the wedding singer. And then when he's talking with Sophie, he's walking through this beautiful vineyard all night long. And then he approaches her, or they stop at some place. They're in some building, and he says, you should probably get to bed. And she looks at him and smiles and says, I've gotten a second wind. Like, okay. Remember, you have a husband though, right? So it just, and Kevin
unless
smiles,
she doesn't.
Yeah, maybe they actually aren't together.
Unless something has happened in between,
and maybe that's part of the reason why she came, because her husband isn't there with her.
True.
And then what we see of Cassidy is they go in the room and she tells him her zipper is stuck. Can he help her with it? That's what we see.
I stand by. I know a lot of people want the like first love to come back together. They like that story.
Mhm.
I still stand by. I think the better story would be this romance built out of this friendship with
agree.
Cassidy.
Because it would be different if it wasn't Sophie and Kevin in the beginning, and then they divorce, and then they're back together, and then they stop, and then he wants her,
Yes.
and then they don't. And that's
If
why it would be a problem.
If we didn't have that middle section, if it was just they got married young, they split because he was unfaithful, and then now at the end they come back together, I could get behind this.
Yeah.
But it's that middle section to where we already tried to get back together, and it did not work.
And
So
with Nikki, when they brought in that unknown, that's different because we didn't have 6 years of Nikki.
Yes.
And so bringing Edie in wasn't such a big deal when it wasn't Sally, because Nikki wasn't as ingrained in us, and we didn't watch Nikki go through all these relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love Edie.
I do too. And what happens, the last thing you see in the preview is just in capital letters, it says the one. So one of these three women is who Kevin ends up with. And I think they're going to keep us guessing until
I think the last episode. I think we're not going to know until the last episode of the show. Because at this point we've taken away, I feel like every other mystery that we've been wondering about, except for Miguel.
Sure.
But for the most part, everything
and
else.
Even with Toby in that most far out flash forward that we get with Toby in it, there's a big question mark there too. And where is Kate? Why is she not there? So there's some questions that need to be answered still in that final.
But we've seen both of them in the future ahead of the cabin, so we know that they're okay. So really, it's Miguel and who does Kevin marry are the last two big questions.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to save them for us. I would. I mean, otherwise, it's just nothing to look forward to. So, because it's not like we're going to look forward to Rebecca dying. I mean, we got to keep something that's going to make us want to see it.
Well, that's about all we have on The Resident. This is Us tonight. If you are a 911 watcher, catch our other episode. We premiere tonight with our 911 and 911 Lone Star recaps, and check that out. You can find us on our Facebook group for The Resident, which is The Resident Chastain Family Fan Club, and This Is Us Pearson Family Fan Club. You enjoyed the conversation there. I just need to remind you that if you are joining any of our groups, that we tolerate no bullying and just be kind. Have fun adult conversations about shows that we love and we're questioning. And on that note, we'll see you in a week. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
For our listeners craving more, you can search for all 16 of our groups on Facebook by searching Family Fan Club. Come on over and join the conversation. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok under Fandom Family Chats. We try to always make sure to have something that will entertain. Of course, we'd also love your feedback, the good and any bad. And you can provide that by emailing us at familyfanclub2021@gmail.com. Keep an eye out for our website coming soon, where you'll be able to buy FFC merch and merch about some of your favorite TV shows with some favorite sayings and images. We're also working toward hosting a Comic-Con style event in 2024 where some of your favorite fandoms, cast, crew, and fans alike will come together for a fun-filled weekend. You can find those announcements on our website coming at you soon. Keep watching and listening, and as always, don't forget to share and subscribe.